What's up everybody? With the 2025 breeding season in full swing now, thought I'd do a video showing off some of my favorite babies from the 2024 season, both some holdback animals and some animals that are available. And yeah, check it out. Got some awesome stuff to show you. All right, first baby here. This is one of the Womina scrub pythons. This was my first snake clutch of the year. They were born back in early May. This one was particularly special for me because this was the first time I was able to successfully reproduce this locality type of scrub python. I've had Wominas in the collection for about 7 years now, so it was quite the journey, but definitely worth it for babies like this one. This girl is one of my personal favorites from the clutch and probably one that I'm going to hold on to. She's pretty light in color considering the age, has a cool dorsal stripe, and was a great starter, took food right away, so very good growth rate. These babies are already pretty much 3 times the size they were when they were born. Scrub pythons do grow slowly as a species, but as babies, the quicker you can get them to grow in that first year, the better off their health will be in the long run. When they're born, as many scrubs are, they are a different color than their adult coloration, go through an ontogenic color change. But these guys have definitely changed rather quickly. This is definitely not adult coloration, but I would say definitely juvenile, nothing like the neonate color. So 3 or 4 sheds in, already a ton of change. One of the most fun parts about keeping and raising scrub pythons is witnessing that color change. So one of my favorite babies of the year, one that I hope to have around in the collection for a long time. This is another one of the Womina babies. And as you can see, very different looking from the sibling I just showed. A lot darker, different pattern. I really like kind of how the yellow etches around her pattern. Very interesting looking snake. The Wominas definitely are known for dark individuals, kind of in comparison to some of the other localities of scrub pythons, which is pretty cool considering there aren't too many dark scrub pythons. So one of my other favorites from the clutch, and another one that's going to be very difficult for me to find it within me to part with. All right, this is one of the babies from the first Barneck scrub python clutch of the year. My favorite scrub pythons primarily due to the variety within this type of scrub. Most people, when they think of a Barneck scrub python, rightfully so, think of a heavily patterned individual, high contrast, but as much as I love those, I really do love these reduced pattern Barnecks. I think that they are greatly underappreciated, and also there really hasn't been hardly any work done as far as refining this look in the captive market goes, and that's something that I have big aspirations for in the future. But you can see some intricacies within this reduced pattern where there is still banding and whatnot, but it is kind of faint, and the tone of the dark and the lighter pattern is pretty similar. And to me, that is a very interesting look that I have many animals in the collection with that look, and hopefully many more in the future. So one of my favorite types of scrub python with the Barnecks, and the reduced pattern look is one of them that I covet the most highly. So this here is a sibling to that last one I just showed, and this is one of the stranger Barnecks I've ever hatched out. So as you guys probably know, Barneck scrub pythons hatch out kind of like a burgundy color, but this one hatched out kind of like a silvery grayish tan. Very strange, and its coloration has kind of stayed that way since then. It was born almost completely patternless, as you can obviously see. Some of that pattern on the back has come in, but the color has still stayed very strange. So this is one that I'm going to be very interested going forward to see how it develops. I've really never seen another Barneck quite like this anywhere else, whether it be a captive bred or a wild caught animal. So very beautiful, one that's very interesting to me, and one that we'll see how this thing looks going forward. Here is another baby that is on the reduced pattern side, and this is from a different clutch than the last 2 ones I just showed you guys. This clutch here was a collaboration with a good friend of mine, Andrew Acevedo, who had an incredible reduced pattern female that was almost identical to a male that I had. And when we put 2 and 2 together, we knew that that pairing had to happen, and luckily resulted in a clutch with babies that look like this. Pretty typical baby coloration. The neck bars, if you can see, are a little bit lighter and kind of faded compared to what they normally look like, which I'm curious to see what kind of implications that has on these animals in the longer run. But what's great about this clutch is that it is an unrelated bloodline to add into some of the reduced pattern stock that both myself and some other incredible scrub python keepers in the US have to bolster those bloodlines for the future. All right, so here's a Barneck on the complete opposite end of that spectrum of a much higher patterned individual. This one was born really heavily patterned. You could tell before the first shed that this one was going to be very nice and high contrast. So really, I mean, as much as I just spoke about how I love the reduced patterned animals, the high patterned, high contrast ones really do speak for themselves. A snake like this is very, very hard to beat. All right, these last three I'm going to show you guys are extremely special to me, and they are another collaboration clutch that I did with Andrew this year, and on the exact opposite end of the color and pattern spectrum. So I'll throw up a picture of the parents for you guys so you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this clutch to me is probably the best clutch of scrub pythons I've hatched out so far. Particularly the mom. She is, I think, the most or the second most golden Barneck scrub python I've ever seen. I've had her for quite a while, tried her with a bunch of different males, nothing ever took, but last year she finally got the job done and produced a clutch of some of the most amazing scrub pythons I've ever seen. This is one of the boys right here, as you can tell, very heavily patterned, high contrast. And as these animals continue to grow, I have lots of faith that they will become much brighter, more golden, much like the parents are. Incredible snakes. So this is a sibling to the one that I just had out, and goes without saying why this snake is so special. A lot of this clutch, but particularly this snake, were born with a pretty developed color relative to a normal Barneck. The snake already has the coloration that you would see in like a 2 to 3 year old animal, which is very interesting, but it does continue to change with every shed. So it'll be interesting to see what that ends up looking like. My hope, kind of like I said with that last one, is that they end up going much more gold like their mom and retain that super high contrast. So really just some of my favorite Barnecks I've ever seen, produced, been able to work with. Snakes like this really keep me excited day to day for the longevity of this project. All right, so this is another one of the siblings, and this snake needs no introduction. Just pretty much the ideal Barneck in so many ways. So much dark coloration, high contrast. It's kind of it's a cool look that you don't see on hardly any of them, where the ratio of black to tan coloration is almost reversed to where the tan is the banding and the black looks like the base color, compared to, you know, Barneck scrub pythons in general, where that tan coloration is the base, the black is the color that's less present. So to see an animal that is this contrasted with that much black is pretty uncommon, and one that I am very thrilled to have as part of the collection, and one that I will be surely updating you guys on for the years to come. One of my absolute favorite snakes that I've ever seen crawl out of an egg. Here is one of the baby Tanamera southern scrub pythons from this year. The sire of this clutch was a patternless, so all of the babies are het patternless. And after seeing the results of this clutch, I'm kind of curious if this granity phenotype is actually the visual representation of the het patternless. The babies look nothing like either parent. The mom is a pretty standard looking southern scrub python, and obviously, as I said, the male is patternless. But these guys came out with orange coloration, those orange lateral bars that are typically associated with the ones that we call the orange Highland type to the oxabill type scrub pythons. So for the babies of a pretty typical looking pairing to come out so spectacular was definitely a pleasant surprise that I will not complain about. But just like those Womina babies, these guys have taken off with food very readily, already have grown significantly and changed color significantly. When they were born, they really looked pretty typical. They did not have those orange laterals present. And honestly, I had no idea that they were going to be this spectacular. So very happy with how this clutch came out, this baby in particular. And another locality that was a first for me, so makes this a little bit extra special. So this is another one of the het patternless Tanamera Southern Scrub siblings. And definitely a different look on this one, a bit darker, a bit more orange, not quite as tight of patterning, but still pretty atypical. Again, what I am theorizing, at least at a very early stage, could be a visual het for the patternless gene within the Southern Scrub Pythons. And another one that is just spectacular, far beyond my expectations for the clutch. So just another incredible baby scrub python. All right, not a scrub python this time, but an incredible snake in its own right. This is one of the northern Mexican pine snakes that I produced last year. It was my second time successfully hatching this species out. And I can't say enough good things about these snakes. A long form video about Mexican pine snakes is definitely in store in the future. They are, in my opinion, one of the absolute best pet snakes. Naturally beautiful, very well mannered, great feeders, and stay a pretty moderate adult size, not much bigger than an adult corn snake, and just absolutely stunning snakes. They, just like the scrub pythons, go through an ontogenic color change as well. They start off pretty drab, so it's easy to pass over these guys when they're little babies, but end up absolutely neon colored as adults. Vibrant orange, yellow, red, brown, all of the different colors on that spectrum. A lot of them get that really cool orange head like this girl here has. One of my favorite colubrid species, and a species that I think should be much more heavily represented in the hobby. All right, this here is one of the baby rattlesnakes from this year's production. Only had a couple of litters, and most of them were with my good buddy Kyle Vargas over at his facility. This particular girl here came from a litter that was one of my females to one of Kyle's best males. This is a San Luis Potosi rock rattlesnake. These are some of the most variable rattlesnakes of all of them. They are extremely colorful as they grow, ranging with colors of yellows and oranges and reds, blue even. And what's amazing about them is from shed to shed, their color palette can change entirely. So that makes these snakes even more fun to raise, because from month to month, sometimes you have an entirely different looking snake. But this girl is really special to me, and one that I'm excited to have as part of my stock for this project. One that is still pretty unavailable in the US hobby, but as more and more get produced, more will become available. And ones that are as incredible like this are, in my opinion, some of the absolute top of the heap of the rattlesnake world. All right, and this is another sibling from that litter of the San Luis Potosi rock rattlesnakes. And this male right here is probably, at this point, my favorite in the collection of this locality. And like I said, though, his coloration could continue to change, though it will only be for the better, and he's already spectacular. He's got that kind of highlighter yellow stripe underneath those blotches on the back, and especially down in the back third of the body, almost like a green coloration that is super interesting and really not something that you see on a whole lot of these Mexican rattlesnakes, aside from some of the clobberi. So one of my favorites, probably my favorite baby of this year's rattlesnakes, though litters were limited. This guy is worth it for sure. So one of my absolute favorites of the year, and a snake that I'm very glad that will be in the collection for a long time. All right, everybody, thank you for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed seeing those snakes. 2024 was probably my personal best breeding season to date, but what excites me is that is only scratching the surface with what I have that I could produce over here. So if you enjoyed that video, please subscribe here on YouTube, like, share, do all that good stuff. For me, you can find me on Instagram at Scrub Shepherd or Stephen Cush on Facebook. For any of my Facebook friends out there, check out the Somalia Facebook group. That is the group that I'm a part of that discusses all things scrub pythons, Bowen's pythons, with people of every experience level, from new keepers to breeders, or even people that are just interested in learning about scrub pythons. So check out that Facebook group if that interests you. With that said, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all back here next week for a new video.